it can happen. And like they're paying the price for it, there's no doubt about it. I mean, they got around 4 years without being beaten at Anfield, and then they get beaten twice, as you say. And then they had two good matches. You know, they had a good win against Spurs, good win against West Ham. And people say that's football, Will. You know, there's no guarantee. I mean, I was talking to somebody last year, very good Liverpool supporter, saying, well, you know, how do you think we'll go? Are we there? Are we going to do what Manchester United did at their great times? And my take on it was, well, I think Liverpool have the foundation now to go on and dominate football for a few years. But what I did say was, you never know what's going to happen. And a lot has happened to stop them doing what they would look like. The season's not over yet, by the way. Well, you know, they're a long way behind, and it doesn't look good for them. But nobody could legislate for the injuries that they've had and things going against them in the way that they have done.
Yeah, like it's remarkable to lose not just Virgil van Dijk, but then Joel Matip on top of that, Joe Gomez, and then to suffer injuries to players kind of short term like Fabinho, who has already gone back from the midfield to fill in at centre back, Jordan Henderson having to go back in to fill at centre back. That takes away from the rest of the team as well, John. It's going to hurt their midfield if you're having to play Henderson there, or Milner has to get deployed somewhere in the defence. You're taking away from one part of the team to just patch things up at the back.
Well, that's what's happened to them, and nobody could foresee that, Will. And again, if you look at Liverpool and the players that they're missing out, if you took Manchester United or Manchester City and had the players as important to them as those people were to Liverpool, where would they be, Will? You know, they just like Manchester City haven't suffered the injuries. Neither Manchester United and the teams that are going to challenge them they've all had a few injuries and they've had to leave players out. But none of the teams have suffered an injury problem like Liverpool had. It's a very, very difficult season for them.
I think where Liverpool has suffered a little bit as well, John, is not just their defensive injuries, but Diogo Jota, who was playing well at the start of the season, and we were debating whether he should be starting ahead of Roberto Firmino in their front three, and he was having a big impact when he came into the team. His injury has coincided with a time where they've struggled to break teams down too. And when your regular front three look a little bit tired and a little bit out of form at times, I know Salah was brilliant on Sunday against West Ham, but when those players look a bit out of form, they would have loved to have had Jota around just to freshen things up at the moment.
Yeah, well, he's another one on the list, Will. You know, if you put him with Van Dijk and Gomez, and I mean, there's no other team I think could sustain the form if they'd lost the players of that type at Manchester United and particularly Manchester City. Like, it's just been an awful season for Liverpool in terms of injuries, definitely, and that's what stopped them from doing it. But you know, before the season starts, nobody knows what's going to happen. You know, I mean, that's life, and that's football particularly. So it's a difficult time for Liverpool. There's no doubt about that. With the big match coming up at the weekend. Yeah. You know, more or less they have to win that match. As you said, they're 7 points behind City, and City have a match in hand. You know, if they if Manchester City happen to win, they'll be doing to Liverpool what Liverpool did to them last season. So it's a huge game for Liverpool. It's a huge game for both teams, but particularly for City.
We'll look at City.
For Liverpool, I should say.
We'll look at City in a second, John. But just as a former midfielder, I'm interested in your take on Thiago coming into the Liverpool team this season. He was signed from Bayern Munich, was so impressive in Bayern Munich winning the Champions League last year. He's a very good recycler of possession. He's a very good passer. But it's taking a little bit of time for maybe himself and Liverpool to gel as a system, because Liverpool like to move the ball quickly through midfield and get the ball up to their front three. Thiago's going to slow the ball down a little bit. I think he's going to improve them possession-wise over time. But it is taking him a little bit of time to settle, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he's not joining Liverpool at their best. You know, you have to go back to the lads you're playing with. You know, you're only as good as the players you play with. I think he'll be a huge signing for them. And I think he's the type of player that they haven't had. And I think he will add to the team. I think he's coming into a team now where we've had a lot of injuries, not at their best by any means. But I think as the injuries improve or they get more people in, I think he'll prove to be an outstanding player for them.
Manchester City, John, either side of Christmas now, they've won 13 games in a row, quietly going about their business, even when Sergio Aguero has been out, when Kevin De Bruyne has been out with his injury. City continue to find a way of winning. And remarkably, their defence, which was a concern over the last couple of seasons, Pep Guardiola seems to have really sorted out their defence this year. It's been the backbone of those 13 wins in a row.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I think Diaz has been a big player for them. And John Stone's coming back to where he was a couple of seasons. Looks like it anyway, with the half a season gone, Will, that he looks the player that he was at Everton when Manchester City bought him. He's had a couple of bad years, as we know, but he definitely looks good. And I think Diaz has been a huge influence for them. As you say, they've lost very, very few goals this season. I think probably the best defensive record in the Premiership. And that hasn't been the case for a while for City, where they were losing too many goals. So they've tightened up, not quite as attractive as they were last season, but more professional, more likely to win matches. I mean, the other night against against Burnley, I don't know if you saw it, I thought this was going to be a really, really difficult game for them, because Burnley are very hard to beat and have had a few good results. As we know, won at Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. And they really played Burnley off the pitch. They won 2-0, but it could have been more. But Burnley hardly got a kick of the ball. They kept possession of the ball. They scored their goals. Very, very professional. Didn't look like losing a goal. So things have improved, definitely, at City defensively in relation to last season.
And we might just be getting a bit of a glimpse into the future here, John, with Man City too. You know, Pep Guardiola is staying around. He signed that new contract. And whether through injuries or design, both Gabriel Jesus and also Phil Foden have played quite a bit of football in recent weeks. Both are playing really well. Jesus is now scoring goals, and I've been really impressed by Phil Foden, John. He's got 9 goals so far this season. He can play over on the left of midfield. He can play in that David Silva position, and he looks like a real talent.
Yeah, I like him as well. Well, I think he's one of the few players now of the young, well, any of the players, but particularly young players coming in. He can actually go past people. And I know that sounds odd, but if you look at most of the games now, you very seldom see a dribbler of the ball, especially from the midfield position or the wing position, going past players. And he's well able to do that and finish as well. I think he's going to be a real player. Jesus got another goal the other night, and he's got to get his confidence in a way that Aguero has or had, which is not easy to do. But I think Jesus will be the real McCoy in time. And definitely Foden will be, I think, one of his main players.
Our football coverage here on Off the Ball is with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, check out gamblingcare.ie. How do you see Sunday's game going then, John? I mean, on the face of it, you're looking at Man City, who look almost unstoppable over the last dozen games. Liverpool look a little bit vulnerable, particularly at home. Or can Liverpool pull it out of the fire and put a performance in like they did against Spurs last week?
Yeah, I think they're capable of doing it, Will. There's no doubt about that. And City, funny enough, don't have a good record at Anfield. So, no, it wouldn't be a huge surprise to me, anyway, if Liverpool beat City. I think they're capable of doing it on the day. I think City are in good form, but I wouldn't write Liverpool off by any means. They are capable of doing it, and certainly on their day. I think it's been poor form for Liverpool with the teams that have been beaten. Actually, the teams they've beaten in recent weeks, like Spurs and that, are up there. The teams that they've lost to is like Burnley, teams near the bottom of the league, which is most unusual for them. But there again, they've lost a lot of players. But I think it'll be a very tight game. If Liverpool won, I wouldn't be that surprised. Let's put it that way.
One final point on Liverpool before we head towards the break. Kelleher got to play and played quite well against Brighton last evening because Alisson was sick. We'll wait and see if Alisson's going to be available for this weekend. But the potential is there for Kelleher to get a huge game here against Man City. I've been quite impressed by him. You know, big games he's played this season, like Ajax when Alisson was out. This could be a huge opportunity for Kelleher to get some big experience on Sunday afternoon. Oh, definitely. I mean, anytime I've seen him, he's been very, very good. I mean, the problem I see for him is not getting enough opportunities, Will. You know, I think, what is he, 21 now, 22? Yeah, I think he's recently turned 22, so he's plenty of football ahead, but you're hoping at that age that guys are playing regular football. Yeah, he'd want to be playing for his own sake, for his personal situation as a goalkeeper. He really should be playing, first-team football. It's like Henderson, who went from Manchester United to Sheffield United. You know, it really, really improved him. I think goalkeepers, particularly, more than any other players, need experience, a first-team experience at the highest level. He's well capable of doing it, as we know. And
like for his own sake, you wouldn't want, I wouldn't, and I don't know the lad, see him too long at Liverpool not getting the matches. If he's getting the matches, fair enough. But over the season, I mean, Alisson, as we know, is a terrific goalkeeper. And I don't think he's going to get him out of the team. And the only time he'll get any chances if he's injured. And goalkeepers don't get an awful lot of injuries. He's a terrific lad. He has the right temperament. He has the ability. And I'd love to see him playing first-team football somewhere if he has to.
Well, John's going to stay with us. We'll talk about Manchester United's joint record win in the Premier League era when they beat Southampton 9-0 during the week. And we'll also look forward to tonight's game between Spurs and Chelsea when we come back in a minute.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. New normal, same old football. Paddy Power. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
On tomorrow's Pat Kenny Show, how the EU plans to combat the next global virus threat. We hear from Irish people living away from home throughout the pandemic. If your employer has you working from home, how safe is your data? New music, food, your weekend sport and the Friday Forum, as well as all the breaking news.
The Pat Kenny Show
with Mater Private Network.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
on News Talk.
Calling all builders, joiners, plasterers and dryliners. Need advice on the right materials for the job? Consider it done. You need them on site and in your hand. Consider it done. You want access to over 10,000 products from the leading construction brands without having to start up the van. Consider it done. There's another way of doing things. eTag. We talk with you to solve your problem and deliver what you need directly onto site. No second guessing, no seconds wasted. Click etag.ie.
Saturday, breakfast, a walk around the 5k, a 0-0 in the Premier League, maybe another walk, attempt some DIY, realise you don't have the tools, order a takeaway, Netflix, bed. Sunday, breakfast, walk, online shopping, Netflix, another walk, and not so super Sunday. Finally, something exciting to talk about. Dublin Racing Festival this Saturday and Sunday. Paddy Power, proud sponsors of the Irish Gold Cup. Please gamble responsibly. 18 plus. See gambleaware.ie.
The UK has left the EU. The HSE continues to work with the Department of Health and other agencies to minimise the impact of Brexit on healthcare in Ireland. For more information on your health services and Brexit, visit hse.ie/Brexit. From the HSE.
Visa asks local businesses like mine what it means when people shop with us.
When people shop locally, it gives us the time to really get to know our customers and to find the things that they really love.
When we get that ding from an online order, it's a sense of excitement. There's high fives. We look at each other and we're doing something right. It's such a good feeling.
When you shop locally, it supports our family business and allows us to build a community of coffee lovers.
To you, it's shopping. To them, it's everything. Visa. Where you shop matters.
On site, on call, or on the road, at Opel we have your van. And now you can deliver with zero emissions in the brand new Opel Vivaro E. International Van of the Year 2021. The new 100% electric Opel Vivaro E combines uncompromising payloads and practicality with emission-free driving. Discover the Vivaro E and the rest of the Opel range like Movano and Combo and find the best van for your business. Opel commercial vehicles now with zero emissions. See opel.ie for details.
Shop online with Harvey Norman for big deals on appliances, technology, furniture and bedding. Get the HP Pavilion X360 Intel Pentium 14-inch convertible laptop with Windows 10 for only €699. Or save €50 on the GoPro Hero 8, now only €349. And at Harvey Norman, we're matching all competitors' prices, even their sale prices. So why shop anywhere else? Shop online at harveynorman.ie or safely in our spacious stores. Open until 6 p.m. daily for home appliances and essential technology.
Go!
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Minimal contact in stadiums shouldn't stop the usual suspects from going down. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Thursday evening on Off the Ball, Will O'Callaghan sitting in for Nathan Murphy. We're talking to John Giles about the week's football and looking forward to the weekend and a big game this evening between Spurs and Chelsea in the Premier League. We're talking about Liverpool against Man City before the break. The teams nestled in between them in the table currently. Leicester just above Liverpool and Manchester United sitting 3 points behind Man City, albeit having played a game more. But United looking to keep the pressure up. And John, they'll have done so a little bit and showed a rootless streak in their defeat of Southampton during the week at Old Trafford, 9-0, up there with their defeat of Ipswich back in 1995. on a night where United let loose against a ravaged Southampton team?
Well, I mean, it was a big win for them. There's no doubt. Will, but I mean, you'd have to look at the situation. I mean, they had a player sent off after a minute and a half. Hadn't touched the ball. He kicked one of the United players instead of the ball, and then another player sent off as well later on. But fair to United. I mean, they took advantage of it on the night, but I wouldn't see it as one of their great nights. Well,
I guess the trick of it though is that Martial hadn't scored in 7 games. He gets a goal when he comes on. Cavani and Rashford had only scored a couple in their last 9 games. They both get on the score sheet. They're able to rest Cavani for the second half. It's a way of maybe playing some of these players back into form there.
Well, it doesn't do them any harm, that's for sure. I mean, scoring goals at any match doesn't do them any harm. But there's a difference between that and scoring a vital goal against one of the top teams when you need to score it. Now, I'm not trying to be hard on Manchester United. They did what they had to do on the night. But I wouldn't see a great deal of significance in it as far as Manchester United are concerned. You know, the players were down. Southampton, first of all, I think the 3 or 4 players missing before they played this team, and then they got a player sent off without a minute and a half. So it made it easy for Manchester United, but Manchester United took advantage of it. But I'm not sure it would be such a confidence booster for them, or indeed any of the players that scored in the game, to be quite honest, Will.
Bruno Fernandes was on the bench. He came on, he scored from the penalty spot. He's been at the club now a year and a couple of days. He was signed just before the transfer deadline in the last season. Feels a long time ago at this stage. But 53 games he's played for Manchester United, John. He's scored 28 goals and 18 assists. He's been crucial for them in the calendar year that he's been at the club. How highly do you rank Bruno Fernandes and the contribution he's made to Manchester United so far?
Well, I think he's been a big success for them. I think he's been a very, very good signing. I think he in the Liverpool match, a couple of big matches there, he didn't play as well as he has been playing. But he's a goal-scoring midfield player, and a very, very good one, Will. He's not a player that gets a grip of the game from the middle of the field. I don't think Manchester United have anybody to be able to do that. But he's a very, very important player, and he's a very, very valuable player for them. He scores goals, he makes goals, and scoring goals is the hardest thing in football. So his contribution to Manchester United since he arrived at the club has been very, very good. Excellent.
Big week coming up for Manchester United. They've got Everton in the Premier League. Everton sitting just outside the top 4 currently, so that's a tricky enough game. And then they've got West Ham in the Cup midweek next week too. So a big spell coming ahead for Manchester United. We've got Chelsea and Spurs tonight, John. You know, Chelsea have made this switch with Tuchel coming in as their new coach after Frank Lampard was sacked last week. He's had a draw and he's had a win so far. This is a chance for him to get a big win tonight if they were to defeat Spurs.
Yeah, it's an important game for both of them. They're there or thereabouts. They've slipped off a little bit recently, Chelsea. But when you see the squad of players that they have, Will, like, it's very strong, and he's got to. Frank Lampard, I don't think, was given the time to really do the job. But he's got to get his best 11. He's got to get a balance to the team, because there are a few players who are similar to each other. And Werner hasn't scored the goals that was expected of him. He's been a top player and he's gone through a bad spell. But they've got a lot of really, really talented players at Chelsea. It's a question now of getting the best team, the best balanced team, and getting the best from them. And that's what he's been brought in to do. But they're a very, very talented squad of players. Yeah,
Tuchel was able to get the best out of a very talented attacking team at both Borussia Dortmund and at PSG. I'm sure that was a big part of the thinking when Chelsea decided to get him in, was to try and replicate that type of football in West London. You mentioned Werner. You know, again, he's been showing faith in him. Kai Havertz's not part of the team tonight, but Werner does start. He's had a dozen games where he's not been able to find the net. I'm guessing Chelsea are just hoping that once he gets a goal, John, they'll start to flow after that.
Well, it's all confidence, strikers particularly, more so than any player on the pitch. I mean, scoring goals is the hardest thing in football, in my opinion, Will. And, they all have different temperaments, strikers. I don't know this lad, but he looks at the moment as if his confidence has gone, and you can see him, he's snatching at things around the penalty area. And he obviously has that temperament. You know, the best strikers I've ever seen are lads who are very, very calm around the goals. Like Jimmy Greaves is the best striker I ever played against, right? And Jimmy Greaves was definitely the type of player. I actually played against him quite a bit. And his attitude was, some you win, some you lose. In other words, if he misses a chance, it's not going to get to him, right? And he'll say, well, I missed that one, but I'm not going to be bothered about missing the next one. I'll get the next one. He had that mentality. You know, and my experience of strikers like that, they all have different temperaments. But I played with two terrific strikers at Leeds United, with Mick Jones and Alan Clark. And they were both different types of different personalities, different type of people. Mick Jones, if he missed a chance, it would get to him quite a bit. And if Alan Clark missed a chance, if I said to Mick Jones or any of the lads, said, come on, Mick, you missed a chance, it'd get him down a bit. If Alan Clark missed a chance, he'd tell you to F off. But he was more likely to get the next chance. Do you know what I mean? It didn't get to him. He had an arrogance about him. And Mick didn't. And Mick, it would get to Mick. I'm only trying to explain the difference mentalities with strikers. In Jimmy Greaves' case, Jimmy was a type of laid back on the pitch. Some you win, some you lose. So when he got a chance of the next one, he'd be still calm about it. Whereas you get lads like Werner at the moment, like when you see him around the goals, he's really, really nervous. You know, he's kicking at the ball, he's knocking it into the ground, because it's obviously got to him with the goals that he hasn't scored. So they've all different temperaments. But you'll probably find with this lad, he has scored goals before. If he scores one, he'll get his confidence back. But the really, really top-class strikers, when they're on a bad time, it doesn't really get to them in that way.
Yeah, after us talking about Timo Werner will probably score for Chelsea against Spurs tonight. How do you see the game going, John? I mean, Spurs will be, I would imagine, desperate to put in a big performance after not playing particularly well against Liverpool just a few days ago. Yeah,
they miss Harry Kane really, really badly. He's been making goals. He's probably the top striker, I would imagine, in the Premiership. He's making goals, he's scoring goals, he's improved every year, and he's not there. At a guess, I would go with Chelsea.
Right. It is difficult, isn't it? Like, Spurs suffer without Harry Kane, because even if Son Heung-min goes across, you take away what he adds to your attack down the left-hand side. Spurs just don't have a player to be able to fit perfectly into that number 9 position at the moment.
No. Well, you find with Son. Son doesn't make many goals. He scores them. He's a brilliant lad. I think he's a great lad for Spurs. But Kane was doing both. He was scoring as many goals, if not more than Son, and making as many goals, which is most unusual for a goal scorer, particularly somebody like Harry Kane, who's a big, strong centre-forward. So he's a huge loss for them. And if you were taking a player, any one player out of the Spurs team, the last one you take out would be Harry Kane.
Yeah, the good news, if you're a Spurs fan listening to us currently, Jose Mourinho said in his pre-match interview that they hope to have Harry Kane back training next week. Doesn't necessarily mean he'll play in 2 weeks' time, but it's possibly not as bad as they first expected. John, we'll let you go and watch the game between Chelsea and Spurs. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks, Will.
John will be back with Nathan next Thursday, giving his expert opinion on the Premier League and everything else besides. It'll be an FA Cup week, midweek next week. We're heading towards the news at 8 p.m. Coming up after 8, we'll be joined by former Ireland rugby captain Brian O'Driscoll to look forward to Ireland against Wales. And we'll also hear from Aileen Gilroy, who's flying the flag for Mayo and Ireland in the Women's AFL. She's with North Melbourne. When the season was pulled down last year, they were in the semi-finals and looked good to win the championship. She's been explaining to us why she reckons North Melbourne should be in title contention again. We'll be back just the far side of the news at 8.
Listen back to your favourite News Talk shows at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app. News Talk already gives you your daily fix of news and entertainment. But wouldn't you like a little bit more? News Talk Extra is everything you might have missed.